Welcome back. You are watching The Core, coming to you live from Channels Television Studios in Abuja, and we are discussing restructuring. Now, I'd like to engage the studio audience, the lady with the white scarf.
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Fatima Muhammad Sani, and then I want to commend the commentators for a wonderful job. I'll quickly direct my question to APC. Sorry. I've listened to when you talked about having, citizens to participate in restructuring, which is pertinent to the nation's political and economic stability. Because of also agitations here and there. Yet, women's role has not been, spelled out. What do you intend to have women? What role will you give women in restructuring? Because some of the issues coming from the North is not women not having space in politics. And there's the issue of 30% affirmative action. So I would like to know what role you want to give to women.
Let's take a few more before we come back to you. Yeah? Okay, so.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Hajia Hadiza Kadir. I would like to go with the ANRP.
Mr. Topa, yeah.
Yes. We can look at it like this. Why don't we look at each state's problem and bring it on table and start working on it locally instead of speaking all the grammar that is not directly affecting the normal person in Nigeria.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm Dr. J.O.C. Samuels. I'm the chairman for Alliance for Nigeria, ANN. Yeah, I've been listening to the panelists discuss this issue, and for us at Alliance for Nigeria, restructuring is something that is key to our agenda for Nigeria. But it's so disheartening to see the way restructuring is being addressed. People have turned it to politics. Just talk. That's why even on this panel now, everybody agrees that we need restructuring, but the specifics on how to do it. And everybody also agrees that the benefits are better than the current system. But why are we shy from doing it? I think what we need, what we lack, is the political will and leadership to do the right thing. I mean, a country is not working. We need to get going and do what we need to do to make it work. And that's why restructuring is key. I mean, I just want to make a small analogy. We're going back to pre-2002 when we have Nitel as the dominant telecom. It took a leader that had the political will that this thing must work. Even though people could say at that time that, you will need infrastructure for GSM for it to work. That could have been a deterrent. But because the leadership at that time wanted it to work, they made all the policies, all the right things that the telecoms needed. They won't give them a 5-year tax break. And within 1 year or so, they were all making profits. So for restructuring, for us, our own approach for restructuring is to make it attractive to all the different federative units. And that is why it is very important that those exclusive items on the legislative list, we need to look at it holistically.
So you believe if you make it attractive is by basically saying to states, this is what you'll be able to take charge of, and that is what is going to help. But I think the states kind of already understand that, don't they?
That is why, there's so much politics in all of this. People will talk about creation of states, additional states, or regionalized. Those are the things that are actually making it kind of
complicated.
But when you look at holistically, what are the benefits of restructuring, making it attractive? What you want to look at it, concurrently, all the things is not making on those states with all the bitumen that it has. Why are they not be able to turn it into gold, into money? Let's break it so that when those states is making money from resources, then it can be paying royalty to the center.
Okay, sir, we have to go to the next person. Sorry.
Yes. I'm a Bere Ifendo. My take is that we have all agreed here that we need restructuring. And the importance of restructuring actually is for us to go back to the old restoration of true federalism. And in doing that, there will be equity. And that's where what the senator said about the states, the extra state for the Southeast, is coming in now. That I agree sincerely with him. But the truth is that, most people are afraid of restructuring for reasons that they don't understand what restructuring is really all about. He tried to make some, examples. Yes, if we have true federalism, there is no state in this country that will not have something to bring on board. Our governors are lazy this time because they get money from the federal. But a situation where they will have to work out things from within the state, we are going to have, every state bringing up. They are not supposed to actually develop, at the same pace, but every state will, develop at its optimum level.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay, my name is Tony Osborg. Looking at the issue of restructuring from my end, I think the major reason why we've been clamoring for this is because we feel we need to have a system that is sustainable, that is efficient, and we have a productive people. We have a system of government where the government derives its sustainability from the people's contribution. And that is why when we define restructuring, we define it as whatever method we adopt towards federalism. What is federalism? Federalism, well, there could be different definitions of federalism, but the key point is that in a federal system, the subnational unit and the national unit must be independent and coordinate of each other. What does that mean? It means that the federating units should be able to sustain themselves independently of federal support. So if we don't have that kind of system, we say we practice federal system in Nigeria, but obviously what we have is a unitary system. Because if we practice a federal system, we won't have a situation where states have to entirely depend on allocations to survive. So when we say restructure, we're simply saying, what can we do to make our states more sustainable? What can we do to have local control? What can we do?
I want to come back to the panel before we go back again to the audience. There were a few issues raised. Let me see if I can just quickly recap them. There was a question asked regarding states and how to make sure that we look at the problems of states and just address that. And I think the issue here is that there's that sense in which sometimes we tend to focus a lot on the center and look at the center as the problem. But if you look at individual states and vis-a-vis their relationships sometimes with the local governments, you realize that they are also, mini oppressors in their own right. So that's one. And then the second one is whether APC will be institutionalizing affirmative action for women, as part of this drive for restructuring. And maybe you can deal with those things, because I think that specifically was addressed to you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Fatima. That was a very good question. Now, the party itself, obviously, is quite conscious and keen on the issue of affirmative action. Now, let me explain what I mean in that regard. It is an issue that is on the front burner, but unfortunately, I'll be the first to admit that no definite policy direction or steps have been taken in that regard. But one of the things that we as members of the party try to push, still in line with what we tried to do in constitutional amendment, was to bring the issue on the floor of the House. And you all know what happened, because there's still a lot of misunderstanding, unfortunately, within the different members of the National Assembly and within my, unfortunately, male colleagues about their own perspective about that. But it is actually something the party is keen on, and which is why we believe for that to even be actualized, the whole idea of a regional system further estranges women from involvement. And we think the states as a federating unit will be a better platform from where women can get closer and more involved in government. And which is why some of us are also pushing for even local government autonomy. all in a bid to increase the involvement, because the postulators of the regional system still haven't defined. There are a lot of questions that are not defined.
Now, part of, I want to read something from someone who's watching at home, and he made reference to something that another person spoke about, so I want to see if we can take that on. His name is Patrick, and he said, it seems the fear of the unknown is the greatest drawback to the debate around restructuring, because some states and parts of the country fear being thrown into penury. And so would a realistic discussion acknowledging these fears help us move forward? Is this really true, or is this a myth? This idea that, is it the political class that is scared, or is it the citizens?
Everybody actually is scared. All of us are afraid of change. But it's now for the political class to assure change is transitional. In fact, any question will be transitional. In Kenya, there are 3 years. We agreed today we shall do this, and you have 3 years to adjust. We need to be rational. We need to communicate. And once we have a document like the VOR has produced, it's good to examine it and then say some things will be done within a year, some within 5 years,
so
some within 10 years.
This document, what is it exactly? Is it a new constitution? Is it, what is it?
It's a draft produced by VOR, synthesizing all the documents back to the 2014 confab, to the Rotten Williams.
So it's a draft constitution?
It's a draft completely specifying.
So you've done all the work already?
You see, Nigerian government is very wasteful. We did this one without costing a kobo to anybody. You understand me? The Obasanjo spent 600 million. Jonathan spent 7 billion. It's what we have done with computer research, synthesized ideas. It's now for Nigeria to examine this document and say, we like this, we don't like this, we like, and this is organic.
Okay, so
everything completely spelled out. Last week.
I think the difference with what you have and what had come out from what the National Conference produced essentially is that in the other one, there was debate and negotiation. Yes. There was debate and negotiation by delegates to the conference. This one, as a researcher, you produce this one without
it's debate. Not to evaluate.
Yes, without debate with anybody. It is easier to move forward with things that have been debated and negotiated and consensus arrived at.
True.
Coming to what the APC recommended as their own restructuring, restructuring in Nigeria is not about the political party.
True.
No political party can tell Nigerians the way they will coexist, the way they will live. It is something the people will make, by their own decisions.
True.
And the chairman of their committee, you could see, said they don't want any new state to be created. That is, states are too much. It's because it's from Northwest and they have 7 states. So they have enough.
But to be fair to him, he's not the only one. There are different,
he's a committee of APC, he's the chairman.
Yeah, but there are different people. He's not here to defend himself.
Let me tell you, you mentioned him, I didn't mention him.
The creation of states, because that committee said there's already an existing process for the creation of states.
That process is driven from the Constitution, which makes a creation of additional states and local governments almost impossible, because you have to go to the various state houses of assembly and get 2/3.
Can we please, excuse me.
Get 2/3.
Okay. So now, when you finish, because I can see Papa has just been shaking his head.
In essence, let's not even be talking about this one here, this one there. Let's just look at the kernel. And the kernel is that the central government is keeping too much to itself. And the states are now, they are there. The federal government gives them bailout funds. If you unbundle the things concentrated at the center and devolve them down to the states, to the extent that anybody who has some resources can exploit the resources and deploy it to development and pay royalty to the center.
Now,
these are part of the things we've been discussing.
The National Assembly has started some sort of constitutional amendment to that process.
DSP said it here. The Deputy Senate President said that there are people who do not want change at all. because they consider the status quo good for them. So they don't want to hear.
So this
the cry of
suggestion that
anybody.
it could be done in 1 week practically will not work.
No, it will not
is your
work.
view.
It will not work because all constitutions we have had in the past, all of them were products of constituent assemblies. The one we have presently, there was no constituent assembly. There was no place Nigerians came together to arrange these things that we are operating today. And that is the major agitation and attack from those who are not comfortable with the status quo. So we must find a way to address the imbalances.
So
you
don't, what I'm hearing is you don't have faith in the current constitutional amendments taking place.
There was a time we said it should be disbanded. They threatened to arrest us, myself and the Braithwaite, Tunji Braithwaite and Barabe Musa.
So till tomorrow.
If you say we the Nigerian people give ourselves this constitution and we did not make the constitution, it's not right.
Right. Okay, let me
so we must find a way around it.
Let me bring Mr. Fashua in because he's been shaking his leg and shaking his head. And
okay. No, I mean, we have so much to say and so little time, actually. I would like to say that the focus should always and continue to be on the Nigerian people. Even when the distinguished senator talks about, the Constituent Assembly and all of that, it's still a case of elites bringing themselves together. How well are we able to go to the man on the street and say, what do you want? Can he even understand what we're talking about?
Okay, but that isn't hang on, it is an important issue, clarify it.
Yes.
Isn't that part of the problem, that actually, if you were to go to the average Nigerian person, because he hasn't been empowered, because he hasn't been educated, he might not even understand the issue sufficiently to be able to make an informed decision.
That is why whenever you bring yourself together as elite, your thinking must always be, how does it make the life of that common man better? Let me tell you, I'm an economist, and I'm sitting down here, I'm seeing that Nigerian economy has been shrunken to the cities and Abuja. I see how the local governments and the villages have been totally ostracized and forgotten in a time warp. In penury and pain, they have nothing, and so whatever it is we're thinking about this restructure, it's not about creating a new state. You talk about the states. You go to the state government houses, you see the number of SUVs they're driving around, maybe like 30, 40, 50. This guy spent billions on some of these things. How does it affect the common man? We're saying that at the end of the day, whatever kind of arrangement we're trying to, if it doesn't make the life of that man better, listen. We are hitting the radar in many wrong ways. We have almost 200,000 Nigerians escaping from this country, running across the Sahara into Libya and swimming across the Mediterranean. 30,000 of them died last year. We're sending, in fact, 100,000 prostitutes into Italy. So you see, whatever it is we're doing, all of this, that auntie said, there's too much grammar, and that's very true. However, I think I'd like to make a point to those especially very intelligent intellectuals. Look, what is true federalism? Have you read the Federalist Papers? And, the point is that even in the U.S., and you said it wasn't a very great example, but even look at Canada.
No. What
Canada
I
also
was
runs
suggesting was that it is no longer the poster child
of
yes.
U.S., Canada. People should Google. Google is everybody's friend. In the U.S., there's no state that stands fully on its own. New York, very rich state. Washington, but when you go to Mississippi, Arkansas, Atlanta, and some of these other places, they're poor. You will see that the federal government gives what they call block grants. They give what they call categorical grants from the federal government of the United States, and even in Canada, the same thing happened. So what they did in Canada, US, is to say, listen, none of our citizens must fall below a certain low standard of living. For those states that are poor, they've kind of bridged it. Now, it doesn't mean that we should be irresponsible. So sorry, Canada, we shouldn't be irresponsible. States should look for what they're going to get. But when we approach the issue of restructuring from a position of angst, to say, look, some people are afraid they are going to be going into poverty.
No. Let me ask it. The issue. Okay, you raised an issue here because part of the issue that keeps coming up again and again is resource control.
Yes.
People wanting to take charge of money that is generated from the things that they generate.
Absolutely.
For example, and yet you're here still talking about some sort of subsidy system.
No, listen, the subsidy, in spite of the fact that
in the federal government.
In the US, the resources are controlled by the states But listen, the federal government generates a lot of money from immigration, from all of these things. They spread it around, and they send more to the states that are poor. Listen, it's Googleable. So now the point is this: that we support. First of all, the focus should be on how the states can generate as much as they can. Things like solid minerals should be devolved to the states. Let them go and, but the states as well. I'm also having an eye on the state governors to say that they haven't also, some of them, most of them, have not conducted themselves in a way that will show that they are allowing, and I'm saying that the economy has shrunk. Senator, excuse me, sir. Very quickly, that the economy has been shrunken to the cities. The next phase of growth for this country and for this economy is actually in those villages. We must go and liberate them. We must spend money there. Listen, most of them.
Please. Let me take a few more of the audience, then we'll come back and we'll start with you. Let me just take a few more people. Yes, sir. Your name, please.
My name is Mr. Okoye. Mr. Ude Okoye is my name. I just want to ask one question and also suggest or say what is exactly causing this problem to remain there. My question is to the APC House of Reps member. In 2014, PDP had a confab that had about 492 delegates, headed by a non-partisan man.
I think we know the details. Okay. So, yes, please.
Then in 2017, APC also had a restructuring committee headed by Rufai. And before APC came into power, they promised to restructure Nigeria. I want to know why, up to today, the report of APC committee, why up to today they have not sent it to the parliament as executive bill for the parliament to enact an amendment to the constitution with the recommendation of their own party.
Okay, one more, because I have to take a break now. Very quick, please.
Okay. The last thing I want to say, the problem we are facing is no longer the issue of restructuring. The problem is the will of the government
so the political
implement the wish of the people.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
The lady here, please.
Thank you very much.
You have 1 minute,
yes,
quickly.
1 minute.
Because I have to go to break, so please.
Okay, I'm Comrade Egbeola Olawale Martins, the National Public Secretary of Young Progressive Party. I just want to say the definition of restructuring is encapsulated in the slogan of the APC, and that is change. Change means doing things differently. We all agree that the current system is not sustainable. That is a known fact by everybody. However, there's a need for the system to be altered, to be changed, so that as to make it more effective. However, from the view of the Young Progressive Party, we feel restructuring should be holistic. And what are we trying to say in essence? Beyond the call for devolution of power, which we support, resource control, which we support in totality, we feel there's a need for leadership and citizenship restructuring.
What does that mean?
That is very fundamental. Yes, we've had leaders over time who have failed to see a big picture, a global view. They've not been able to see beyond this little picture of religion and ethnicity. These are fundamental facts.
So you're saying we should change our leadership entirely?
The mentality, the kind of leaders we have. When the senator made a very good remark in terms of the regional system. Now, people fail to understand why the regional system worked. It was because we had selfless leaders, leaders with capacity, leaders in the mode of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, leaders in the mode of Ahmadu Bello. Yes, leaders in the mode of Nnamdi Azikiwe. These were leaders who were able to see beyond the immediate. They saw into the vision. And the citizens also, keyed into that vision. Now, today, what we have is that we don't have leaders who have got this global view to drive development.
Okay, it is time for a quick break. It is time for a quick break, and I have to stop you there. Please don't go away. We'll carry on when we come back.